Welcome to Our Future is Kind, a podcast exploring how we build the future we want to live in, one kind act at a time. I'm your host, Michael Neece, president of Our Future is Kind, and your companion in conversations about kindness, leadership, connection, and courage. Each week, I sit down with thoughtful leaders, creators, and bridge builders to explore what a healthier, more humane future could look like, and the choices it takes to build it. These are honest conversations about purpose, culture, curiosity, and what it really means to show up for one another at work, in our communities, and in everyday life. Along the way, we'll unearth practical ideas, small but meaningful acts, and questions worth sitting with, because building what's next is a choice. So let's dive in. Shenandoah Chefalo is a sought-after speaker, award-winning author, and one of the nation's leading experts in trauma-informed leadership and systems change. Shen, welcome to the show.
Michael, I am thrilled to be with you today.
I'm so happy to have you today. The world feels heavy, as we were talking about right before we got on here. And I feel like you are one of those people that helps make it lighter.
Yeah, I think, no matter what, heavy things are going on. They're going on for us personally. They're going on for our neighbors or people that we care about. They're just going on for other world community members, right? No matter where you are on planet Earth. And I think there is just this real space to relearn how to be connected in a meaningful way. And that in that connection, it suddenly feels lighter.
Well, not everybody's adept at getting to that. How do you keep your frame of mind such that the world can feel heavy, but you are finding something else. You are seeing into it a little bit more. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it started with my own healing journey, right? I sort of grew up in that era of we don't need to talk about that.
Yes.
Just keep that to yourself, push that down. And really kind of what I've realized now is the toxicity of fake it till you make it. Just pretend everything is fine, and thus everyone will assume everything's fine, and then everything can be fine. And I really kind of was the queen of that. Like, I owned that fully and was like, the least people know, the less judgment they can make. They don't need to know these things about me. And I always say that I was just pushing that down. And I thought I was really good at pushing that down. But what I found was sort of like the wet sponge on your sink is that it thinks it's containing the water. But
Right.
when you pick it up and move it, it has left behind some residue, right?
Right.
Water and other yucky, gunky stuff. And what I didn't realize was that constantly pressing down for me of my stuff was leaking stuff out on people around me and really getting in the way of connections, really getting in the way of being able to authentically connect with people with who I truly was. And so for me, it was that shift from not just what's wrong with me. And a lot of people say, well, it's what happened to you, right? And that's a good place. But the shift that catapulted me was from what's wrong with me to what's strong in me.
Ooh. Say that again. I love it.
Instead of what's wrong with me, what's strong in me. Now, it still requires self-awareness. I'm not perfect by any stretch, and it's not about denying that I have things wrong with me, but that when I come from my strengths, it's a much better place and I go farther faster. And when I started applying that to others, especially in the heaviness of the world, there's plenty I can see wrong in the world, right, Michael?
Sure.
I have eyes, I have opinions, I have all of those things. And when I'm in that yucky place of my brain, that fight, flight, freeze, appease place, it's easy to say, what's wrong with that person? Why would they ever say that? Why would they ever do that? When I can stop and pause and sort of what's happened to them and what is it they're trying to communicate to me underneath what they're actually saying? what's strong in what they're trying to do, where is the piece. It helps me see through that different lens so that I can try to connect and understand with people who maybe outwardly I would otherwise say there's nothing redeeming about them.
It sounds like you're looking into whoever is in your presence. You're looking into their backstory almost. Like you're seeing not just the surface actions and words, but something deeper.
Yeah, because, I sort of say defiance isn't defiance. It's trying to communicate a behavior. And so if I just see meanness or ugliness, that may be true, right? Because two things can be true at the same time. Someone can be mean, but also trying to communicate something that's missing for them, a need that's not met, a trauma that's unresolved, something else. And I've just found over and over, if we don't get to the something else, we get stuck in this repetitive pattern of just saying people are good or bad. And I've really not found that. I found that all people are kind of a mix of all of those things.
I know that my audience is probably sitting here saying, gosh, this sounds amazing. Where did Shen get this from? And for those audience members who are not really familiar with your story, do you mind just giving us a little bit of your background? Because I know it's fascinating, and I know you even have a book about it. So can you just tell us a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Michael, sometimes, right, the start is even with my name, which is a conversation I've been having a lot lately, because Shenandoah, for a person in my age bracket, flies a little bit unique for most people.
Sure.
And so that story is really important because for a long time, I used to say the story that my biological mother told me, which was, oh, I met your father at the Shenandoah Hotel in Las Vegas, and so we just named you after that. And that was a story I was told a lot in my childhood. I repeated it a lot. And as I got older, I would often say, well, at least they didn't meet at the Tropicana, right? Like, I mean, Shenandoah was pretty bad as a kid, but Tropicana would have been even worse, or Caesar's Palace. I mean, there was all these things that could have made it much worse. And I would joke, and the joke for me was twofold. It was to kind of lighten everybody up, of course, but
Sure.
two, it stopped people from asking deeper questions about me.
Got it.
And so it became this thing that kept me safe. And then I was kind of in a professional career, and I was getting interviewed for an article, and a journalist came in, asked me about my name, and I told him that story. And he accepted the story and went on his merry way. And about a day and a half later, I got an email from him that said, I've got to call you. I've got some follow-up questions. And I thought, oh, that's strange. But okay, so we hopped on this call. And he said, I'm just going to come out and say it. But I was researching the Shenandoah Hotel, and it turns out that you were born several years before the hotel opened.
Oh, wow.
And that was like, the internet was kind of new at that time. So we weren't really like fact checking the way in which we fact check today. And I knew in that moment that I was caught because this had been part of my just pushing it down, not telling anybody's story. And at that point, I had never told anyone my backstory, including my husband.
Wow.
And so I felt caught in this lie that wasn't really my lie, but if I didn't give some explanation, I knew I was in trouble.
Right.
And so I had to talk about my mom and that my mom suffered from mental health issues, that my mom had lots of substance abuse issues. And really the first 13 years of my life were spent traveling around with my mom. We moved over 50 times. I attended over 35 schools.
Wow.
And ultimately ended up in the foster care system, aging out of the foster care system halfway through my senior year of high school. And as I was trying to backpedal and explain my way out of this lie that I had been caught in, it also began to open all of these things I hadn't been dealing with.
Sure.
And that journalist said, you should write a book. And I was like, absolutely not. He's like, no, you have to. I had been using my experiences, but not talking about my experiences. And I hadn't healed from my experiences. But his encouragement, along with a client that I was dealing with in our office at the time, really spurred me to write my novel, Garbage Bag Suitcase, to talk about I say this, I really didn't want to talk about my trauma.
Sure.
Like, I had no desire to do that. And people say, but wasn't it like really healing? And I always say, not for me. I mean, I've heard other authors say this, like it was really cathartic and I worked through things. And like, I was like, for me, it was like just opening up wounds with no supports or no way of even knowing how to deal with any of those.
Right.
So it wasn't really cathartic for me. But what I wanted more than anything was to change systems. I was working in a criminal defense system, in a criminal defense office, and I just saw negativity everywhere. And so I thought the only way I could give myself credibility was for people to understand how deeply I understood the trauma of systems.
Right.
And use that and use what I was learning through, Dr. Folletti and Dr. Anda's work on adverse childhood experiences and some of the new neurobiology that was coming out in the late 90s around those pieces, that I thought, this isn't just about me. This is about how we collectively show up at work, in systems, in communities.
Right.
And that's how we could change how we see people. So I didn't come to like the what's wrong with me to what's wrong with me easily.
Sure. Sure. It sounds like a fight.
Several years. And even today, it's hard. I mean, it's easy to say like, hey, you should just do this. It's such an easy mindset. But there's days where I'm just like, what am I doing? What is that person doing? It's hard, but I also say that's why we collectively need each other. Because when I'm having the hard day, great, then maybe Michael can be the one to say, okay, Shen, how can we see this through a different lens, right? And be the one in his like executive functioning. It doesn't always have to just be me, but that's why we need each other in community, and we need to be able to speak that same language.
Right. And Shen, as you're talking about your experiences, it just occurs to me that so much of our society is designed around more of a central average data point. And that central average data point tends to look an awful lot like me. It tends to look an awful lot like the straight white male who's non-disabled. I'm not part of the LGBT community other than as an ally. And my background was that I had two parents who raised me in one home, and I had one sister, that sort of thing. So how do we penetrate that? Because it seems like there's an awfully large part of society right now that doesn't want to see past that average or the personal experience. I've had so many people say, well, you can't be that way because that's not true. And when you start digging, it's not true to them because that's not what they experienced in their lives. How do we penetrate this? How do we get people to hear each other and value each other? Because Shen, I want to be that other voice for you. Yeah. I want to be that person who can be there for you. But I know that there are a lot of other people who don't think like that. How do we reach them?
I mean, I think the key to this for me, and I know there's an awful lot of talk right now about race, about culture, about sexuality, gender, all of these pieces. I heard a TED Talk a long time ago, maybe 2007, kind of right when they were burgeoning on the scene, by author Chimamanda Adichie. And it was called The Danger of a Single Story. Now, I think it's worthwhile for all of your listeners to just go out. It's maybe 17, 18 minutes long. And it's something that I actually use in training quite a bit to start this conversation. But the point that she's making there, and she makes a really valuable one in the very beginning that her parents, right? She was raised in Nigeria, and right now people's minds are probably spinning about what that even means, right? But she was raised by a professor and administrator and what would be considered in Nigeria very middle or upper middle class. They had house help that lived there. And when she was very young, they got a new houseboy called Vide. And all of her mother ever said about him was that he was very poor.
Okay.
And so if she wouldn't eat her dinner, she would say, don't you know that there's children starving like Fide's family? And so eat your dinner. And so all she learned was to think of him as poor. And so one day her family brought them to go see his family, and she saw that his brother had made this beautiful patterned basket. And it had never occurred to her that him or anyone in his family could ever make something.
Right.
Because all she had ever saw him was as poor, right? And so she gives lots of other examples from her own experiences and things that she experienced coming to the United States as a college student. This idea that we're more than that single story. So you're more than a white, straight male.
Sure.
I'm more than a white, straight female. I'm more than my trauma story. I'm more than my foster care story. You know, I sort of talk about people as, those kaleidoscopes that we would look through as kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you could look through it and there's an image and a pattern.
Right.
And if you never turn it, then that's all it ever is that one singular image and pattern. But if you turn it, it turns into something quite different. Right. And if you turn it a different way in a different way, it continues, right? In fact, it's infinite. The kaleidoscope is ultimately infinite. But that's a lot like us as people. If I only see you through one lens, that's all you'll ever be.
Right. Right.
If I turn the kaleidoscope, if I'm curious, if I ask a question, suddenly I'm getting different variables and versions. And I think that's what we're missing in society. We want to pigeonhole people into one thing. And intersectionality addresses this somewhat, but even then it's still trying to pigeonhole into, well, I'm a woman or I'm a, right. Yeah. I'm also a lot of other things. We're really complex. I'm a football fan, right? There's these other pieces to me. I enjoy travel, but I hate tomatoes. There's this complex piece of all of those parts and pieces. And so I think that reframe is really important. And resistance is often the nervous system trying to stay safe.
I love that.
And so for a lot of people, we're in resistance because I think newness, curiosity can present danger for many. And we have to find the spaces where it's okay to ask questions.
So we should offer out ourselves as kaleidoscopes to others. We should ask a lot of questions. Is that the next logical conclusion? Because I love people and I love knowing people and supporting them and learning about them. Is that the approach that we should try?
Yeah, I think Brene Brown talks about this quite a bit when she talks about vulnerability, right? We have to be comfortable being vulnerable so others can be vulnerable. And I completely agree with Brene on that. Maybe the place we slightly disagree, or I haven't heard her speak about enough, is what happens when someone tries to weaponize our vulnerability. Which is something I'm sort of watching on the national scale, is what happens when vulnerability becomes weaponized, where if I say I'm hurt, then you try to say I'm weak. If I cry, that's weakness, right? That's the weaponization of it. Right. And so I think we have to find the in-between space. It's not all or nothing. It's just yes and. In that my vulnerability might look different when I'm in a podcast with Michael versus when I'm in public with strangers I don't know versus in a professional setting with colleagues versus my family and friends versus, right? Like,
Right.
and that it's okay that it changes, but that we're still as curious about others as we would like them to be with us.
Right. Well, curiosity is definitely something that this program is about. Our Future is Kind is dedicated to the idea of trying to build a kinder future.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that just stokes all kinds of curiosity about what does that future even look like? Who is there? Who gets a seat at the table? And then how do we create it? So I'd love to just take you down a couple of hypothetical pathways with me.
Yeah, love it.
Okay. So I want you to envision with me that we are 100 years in the future. Okay. So we've gotten into our time machine. I dial the dials so that we're 100 years from now. Think about who will still be alive in 100 years, right? It's not us for sure. Probably our kids, if they're 10 or older, probably not them. Sorry, guys, but time does flow and it's gonna happen. So now we're talking about our grandkids or great grandkids. Maybe they're the old people at that time. So we're 100 years in the future. We get out of the time machine and I say, Shen, we did all the right things. We did it perfectly. We were there for each other. We took care of our planet. We were, we listened well. We made great profits. We did whatever it was that we thought we should be doing. And now suddenly here we are. What are you going to look for to say, oh, he's right. We did do all the right things? What's your evidence that we got it right?
I think for me, it's actually the way in which I define safe. Right? So for me, safe, SAFE, safety, agency, fairness, and empathy. Can I see it?
Right. So tell me those again. Safety,
agency, fairness, and empathy.
And empathy. So you would show up to wherever we landed and you would be looking for those things.
That's what I'm looking for, right? Are people safe? Do people have agency, choice, essentially, fairness, and empathy?
So if we see somebody who is disabled, do they have the same abilities to get to things that everybody else does?
Yeah. Do they have the same choice? Do they have the same agency, right? Is it fair?
Right. I love that. That's such an easy way to remember it. So everybody who's taking furious notes, if you didn't catch it, we're going to put it in the show notes. Don't worry about it. Okay. So here's the second part to the question.
Yeah.
I said we did all the right things. What are all those right things?
I mean, I think it's doing those behaviors now. I mean, the one thing that I've learned in all of my work is that we can say all of the things.
Sure.
Michael, go take care of yourself. Michael, I want you to be happy and healthy and have choice. And we can say those things. But the truth is, humans mirror behavior.
Yeah.
And so we have to do the things.
Okay.
Right? So it's one thing to talk about it. That's God love a podcast. I mean, we love talking about the thing.
Yeah.
The challenge is doing the thing. And so have we provided agency? Have we provided fairness? Have we provided empathy to give safety? Because I think you can't really have that safety without those other three things. And so are we modeling that for others? It's like, if you want goodness in the world, you have to be good in the world, right? Like this, it starts with you and it's inside out work.
Right.
What am I doing? I say this at an organizational level quite a bit because we can get into the reenactment of it's my boss. If my boss doesn't change, then nothing, right? Then what's the point of me changing? Sure. And I'm always like, so who's the change for the boss? Who's modeling for the boss? Like, it's a two-way street. So just like you say, oh, well, kids aren't born hating. They learn hate, right?
Right. Sure.
Great. From who? Well, from parents. Okay. But parents also learn from kids.
Right. It's
So
very true.
it may be true that as a toddler, you learn from your parents. As an elementary age kid, you learn from your parents, maybe even as a high schooler. But at some point, you could start being a different kind of role model from your parent. And as a parent of an adult kid, I mean, I've been learning from my kid for a long time. Right? Like she has said things to me that have stopped me in my tracks of like, okay, yep, that's on me. Like I've got to own that.
Right.
And so we learn from each other, regardless of our age, regardless of our race, regardless of all of these things. And so if we want the world to be that world, whatever your listeners are envisioning, maybe it's not the thing I envision, which I could be sold on, but are we living that? Are we living what we think would create that beautiful space 100 years from now? Because we only do what's being modeled for us. And it's why I have grave concern when people, specifically people with lots of power, maybe aren't modeling civility or aren't modeling grace.
Right. Right.
That can have a very tragic for all of us.
Well, I think you're right about the children. I mean, I have 3 kids, and they're not kids anymore. They're 17 and 20 and 22. And so they teach me all the time, whether I'm ready for it or not. They teach me all the time, which is wonderful, because being challenged as an authority figure means that I have to reconsider what are my fundamental assumptions, what are my behaviors and my value systems, what are my goals, how am I chasing the things that I'm chasing. And if one of my kids says, Dad, that's not really proper, we shouldn't be doing that, or I can't believe that you would say something like that. Wow, now suddenly I have to really rethink it a little bit. And I don't want to. I'm going to say it right now. I don't want to, but it's also so fruitful to do that self-reflection. So what are your thoughts on that then? I mean, if the kids are going to be teaching us, are there certain things that we should hold fast to and not allow them to sway us on? Or how do you think about it?
Well, the only thing I know for sure is that none of us get out of it alive.
Yes. My father says that all the time.
I mean, it's the only thing I know for sure.
Right.
And so what is the harm in being curious about a new way?
Mm.
And I think about this, maybe technology is the best way to talk about it. And I mean, I have to believe that when cars were introduced, now I wasn't around, I'm not that old, right? I wasn't around, but I have to believe there were people who were holding steadfast that the horse would always be the best form of transportation, no matter what.
Right.
Till the moment they died.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
There's just people who said that way. We could probably say the same about the abacus, the slide rule.
Sure.
Right? There's these pieces where technology has changed, and it doesn't mean that the horse isn't good transportation or the abacus isn't a good way to do math. It's just that there's something new that makes it easier, faster, better, is a way that helps optimize for some other group or people. And it can be really hard if you're the person having to let go of the abacus or let go of the horse for the new thing. It's okay to feel challenged in that way, because change, again, makes us feel unsafe.
Right.
But what happens if we just say, what if?
Right.
How can I support you, Michael, while you work through asking the what ifs for you? And I see a lot of people on planet Earth struggling with that right now, that the world is changing, and some may argue faster than ever before. I'm not sure. I've only lived through this time. it sure seems faster than I remember it as a kid.
Sure.
But I don't know, because I wasn't here in the 1600s where maybe when medicine became a thing, it felt like things were changing fast as well, right? Like there's these times in history where perhaps it's felt fast as well.
Right.
But how do we just create a safe space to say, you're questioning, let's explore it.
Right.
Instead of just going to no.
Right.
What if we just explored? What if we were just curious? What if?
Right. Right.
And I think that's where the magic happens. What if everything you're afraid of didn't happen? And we can talk about, well, what if what I'm afraid of does happen?
Right.
That's a fair exploration as well.
Sure.
But if we're going to explore that, can we also explore what if that's untrue?
Right. What if everything's fine?
What if this is really the path to enlightenment? What if this is really the path to something better?
Right.
And is it possible the more we hold on, the more division we cause?
Well, certainly that is descriptive of our entire society right now. It feels like our society has a lot of folks who would like to hang on to what is, and some who want to see what we can become. And I'm not trying to single out a political party.
No.
This applies to everything. I mean, looking at AI coming in,
yes,
thinking about the new technology, there are those who really just want to burn it to the ground and make sure we never have it come into any more power than it's already got. And then there are those of us like me who say, this is a partner. This is a tool. Maybe we're giving birth to a whole new intelligent system that is going to help inform us and support us and maybe merge with us at some point. Who knows?
We don't know. I think for me, like, so even if we think about religion, because I consider myself an agnostic, which essentially means I just haven't seen enough proof to choose any one path. That's what that, for me, that's what that means, right? I just haven't seen enough proof that I'm convinced that anyone in any religion is 100% correct.
Right.
I'm a little more curious. I need more answers first before I could fully commit. And so when I meet someone who is holding on to any religious piece, and it could be anything for me, right? Like, they believe in the universe, they believe in energy, they believe in a Christian God, they believe in some other, doesn't matter for me. The question is what if the other people are right and you are wrong?
That's a big question.
And I use it because religion is so big, right? Yeah. But everyone has a belief about it. So like whatever that is. But for me, we could use that about anything. So if you say that pineapple is the only topping for a pizza, Michael, we can only have ham and pineapple on a pizza. My question is just going to be, what if that's not true?
Right.
What if we could have all these other things as well?
Right.
And what might that look like? And what opportunities, what doors might open? And I think that's what I'm trying to say when I say two things can be true at the same time. It is possible that pineapple and ham are, I don't think that it is, by the way, but it's possible pineapple belongs on a pizza, and also that it doesn't.
So how do we have these conversations with kindness embedded into them? Because if somebody is very, very wedded to a Christian belief system and you want to challenge that in some way, how do you have that conversation in a kind way? Do you just not have it if the person is not willing? Do you only have it if those beliefs suddenly infringe upon the rights of some, of yourself or some other group that you care deeply about? I mean, and then how do you have that conversation in a kind way so that you're honoring the deep belief system without necessarily affirming it. Does that make sense?
So curiosity for me is always a great place. Assume there's something you don't know. Assume there's a piece of information you don't have. I think when we come to a conversation held true that we're correct, we're already on the wrong path. Right? So if I'm trying to convince you to change, Michael, I've probably already missed the chance. And so this idea, and I talk about this with organizations quite a bit, like if you're trying to do a new policy, you have to input. I mean, we need policy, we need rules, we need laws. I think everyone, at least I hope, a majority of people agree with this. I know there's an anarchist movement that exists, but like that, laws and rules and reason are good. My question always becomes, how will this reduce fear and how can we increase choice?
Reduce fear and increase choice. Those are both good things.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think oftentimes, especially when we're talking about things around religion, about core values for many people, there's this idea that I'm giving up something so you can gain something. And for me, it's like, but how could it be a win for both so neither are losing, but right?
Right.
But we're both winning.
Right.
So great. I don't think that drag queens should be allowed to read to children. Okay, here's something people have a feeling about.
Sure.
Okay, but instead of just saying we're going to stop that completely, how do we reduce fear and how do we increase choice?
It's a good question.
Instead of just saying, I think that behavior should stop.
Right.
So I think it's a conversation around gun violence in America right now. How do we reduce fear and increase choice?
Right. Yeah.
What does that look like? And I think if we can, and it sounds simple. I know it's much more complex. I want to say that to your listeners as we get into some of these issues. But even if you're just at work, if you're a leader in a workplace or a staff member in a workplace, every new policy, how is it reducing fear and increasing choice? If you're a parent setting rules for your kids, how does this reduce fear and increase choice?
Right. That's a great pair. That's a great pair.
And choice, by the way, can have parameters.
Sure.
Right? Like, choice doesn't have to be limitless. Would you like a grilled cheese or would you like ham and cheese?
Right.
It's choice.
Right.
In parameters. It doesn't mean I'm asking you, would you like a club sandwich? Would you like a Reuben? Would you... It's not necessarily infinite. But how do we increase choice and reduce fear? And I think those two pieces play an awful lot in human-centered, trauma-informed work.
Oh my goodness. This is just such a great conversation. I'm going to ask you now about how you stay up. Because with the world being the way it is, there's so many things to consider, so many things to ponder. It can feel ominous. It can feel overwhelming. We don't all have great days. So Shen, when you are faced with a day where you just don't feel like you've got it together and you don't want to get out of bed and things are not feeling great, what do you reach for to inspire you? What gets you up?
So I think for me, it's really complex.
Sure.
It's not, I think it would be really easy for me to get on and say, listen, I cuddle up with a good book or I take time for myself or I do those. And those are simple things and they are things that give me pleasure for sure. But for me, I think it's the long haul work that I've invested in. And I really look at my care in two ways. The things that give me joy, which are super important, and the things that have to help me in my personal development.
Okay.
Asking about my core values, thinking about the things I'm tolerating, wondering why something triggered me or made me upset in the first place. Instead of assuming like, gosh, why did Michael give me that dirty look at our work meeting today, right?
Right.
And telling myself a whole story about it, I try to say to myself, why is that bothering me?
Mm.
What is that for me?
Right.
Instead of making it about you, right?
Right. Right.
Is what is it I'm seeking? What am I missing? What's not fulfilling? A long time ago, I realized, sort of when I was having this, I'm just pushing it down and I'm so good at faking it till I make it. I realized that this idea of filling our cup up wasn't quite enough, is that what we really give to other people is what we're overflowing with.
Mm. That makes sense.
And so when I'm overflowing with insecurity, I got a lot of it. I got a lot of insecurity. And when I'm overflowing with insecurity, that's what I'm giving to others.
Right. Right.
When I'm overflowing with understanding or compassion, then that's what I'm giving. When
Right.
I'm overflowing with niceties, which I sometimes am, then that's what I'm also giving.
Right.
Or impatience, another thing that I'm sometimes overflowing with.
Sure.
So that's what I'm giving to others. And so I've started looking at, why am I having a bad day? And for me, it's not usually a singular bad day. It's like, okay, it's now been a week.
Right.
Because I love to give myself grace when it's a singular day.
Sure.
But now when I'm like, okay, mentally I'm not well. It's been 3 or 4 days and I can feel that growing in me, the
Right.
yuckiness,
Right.
however we might define it. Then it's time for me to pause and actually really disconnect.
Got it.
And I retreat to, I need some time in nature.
Okay. Yeah.
Where I can, because I say to everyone, well, I love hiking. I hate the first 2 miles of every hike.
Oh.
And I hate the first 2 miles of every hike because it's in the whole getting there, getting set up, getting your gear, there's other things I could be doing. I could spend my time somewhere else.
Right.
And in the first 2 miles, once I get on the trail, my brain is downloading. Why did you say this? How come you didn't handle this better? It's all the noise.
Sure.
Why is the president doing X? Why did all of the things.
Right.
And then at about mile 2, that starts to go away.
Right.
And now I'm really in contact with who I really am.
Oh, yeah.
My true self. And then I feel like I could hike forever. I feel like you want to go 30 miles? That sounds great. Like, no, it's not true that I could, but like, I feel like I could, right? I'm mentally in this space. I think that's why people like do things like long hikes, like the Appalachian Trail, because I get that. That's what refills my tank of what is it I want to be overflowing with for others.
Right.
Because for me, I'm just trying to be the best me today. And I'm going to apologize if the best me today was hurtful for you.
Mm.
And I'll try to be a better me tomorrow. But I will own that sometimes the best me today isn't great. She does bad things. She says mean things. She's not always in tune and present and listening, right? It's just, and I hope you'll do the same for me.
It's a powerful call to action for everybody who's listening in. The idea that you own all of it, that you are the person who, good, bad, otherwise, you are you, and from day to day, that's going to vary. What a profound way of looking at life.
Yeah, because I have maybe about 8-10 months ago, I was in a training that wasn't going so well. I was the facilitator and it wasn't going so well. It doesn't even matter why it wasn't going well. It just wasn't going well. And I'm hard on myself. Like, I know I'm hard on myself.
Sure.
And I just couldn't put my thumb on it. And then I just had the realization, maybe we were all struggling at the same time.
Mm.
Maybe nobody was really at fault. Maybe like there's this need for us to find someone to blame, right? Like
Right.
for me, it was like, what wasn't I doing? What didn't I see? What could I have prepared better? What were the things? I'm hearing what they're saying, but I can't make that logically make sense. Like
Right.
what am I missing? What do I not know? And then I came to this, maybe it was all of us at once who owned a piece of it just not going well.
Right. Right.
You know, and I think about that just in staff meetings or like, oh, that meeting was well, or that meeting didn't go so well. And it's like, what if no one person is singularly responsible, but we're just all in an energy that is either good or not so great. And what changes if we just stop and acknowledge that instead of trying to push through, instead of trying, you know, like it feels like we're collectively, as the United States right now, I can't speak for the rest of the world, in a moment of compassion fatigue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So could we just pause and acknowledge the fatigue?
Right.
Or are we all just going to sit here and be like, let's just push through another day?
Let's hope not. Yeah, let's hope
Right?
not.
Like, I think that's where it's that space that it's not ignore it or do something. What about the space in between the either or?
Right. In my youth, I used to play the viola.
Ooh.
And so playing it in several different orchestras, I definitely found that there were moments during practices, even one moment during a performance where it just wasn't going well. And you could point to one, it was the double basses. It was the, second violins. You could point and quite frequently, I have to say, probably it was the violas. I mean, I was part of that section and yeah, I'll own it. But I know what you mean when you're saying that it's sometimes it is a collective moment.
Yeah.
Everybody's just not quite hearing each other. And so it's hard to play synchronized. It's hard to play in tune. It's hard to get through a piece, let alone through an entire concert.
Yeah.
So that's a really profound observation, Shen. I love it.
Well, because if you've ever, like, even in athletics where you've heard, like, oh, I was in the flow.
Yeah.
Like if someone has pitched a no-hitter or has done something really well, they're like, oh, I didn't even really realize it.
Right.
It just was so easy in the moment. And probably when you were playing, I'm not a musician, but like I've heard musicians say like, I don't know, it just happened. Right. I wasn't even kind of there. It felt almost out of body experience.
Right.
I think that's what we're looking for in relationships.
I think
to just be in flow with each other and not like, what are you thinking about? What's going on with you? What's that's a lot of work and energy.
So much pressure on ourselves and each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I attended a concert many years ago with the Punch Brothers, Chris Thiele and a whole bunch of other talented musicians. And they got to the fourth piece in their set list. And at the end of it, we all gave them a standing ovation for 2 or 3 minutes. It was just, they hit something. I don't think they even realized how they got there, but it was just this moment where everybody realized we witnessed something that was spectacular. And I can't help but think that humanity is heading for that.
I think so.
I mean, we're in this really rough patch where we're not hearing each other. We're not playing synchronized. We're out of tune at moments. There are little patches that sound okay. How do we get through to that breakthrough moment? Do you have the secret magic formula?
I don't know that I have the secret magic formula, but I do in my heart of hearts believe that if we also want that world we envision in 100 years, that you don't get to all that goodness and light without some darkness and struggle. And so I do believe to get to healing, you got to deal with some ugly stuff. And I say that from my own personal healing journey. Is like, yes, I want enlightenment. Yes, I don't want to be in pain. Yes, I don't want these things. But even if you talk about physical pain, like someone who's been in a car accident or has broken a leg, right?
Right.
Physical therapy is painful.
It is. Yeah.
To get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so all the things, I mean, therapy is hard. Digging into the past, digging into wounds is hard. So even when we're talking about things like DEI it's going to be hard to talk about American chattel slavery.
Yeah.
That's going to be painful.
Yeah.
To get to a place that's better.
Right.
And you could insert anything in there from our past, right? To talk about anything from our past is going to be hard. It's going to come at a cost and pain and tears and agony.
Yeah.
But then what can come out of that is really beautiful. And I see as a better place that we can honor. I can honor the harm that happened to me and have a space for that. But I don't have to also be stuck in the pain forever.
Right.
It doesn't have to define it's a piece of me. It will always be a piece of me.
Sure.
But it doesn't have to define every piece of my future.
Right.
And I think collectively, we do have to dig around in some of the pain that our fellow man have been in. And I use man generally, right? Here, man have been in. To get to that really good place. But I don't think we have to be afraid of it. We don't have to be afraid of disagreement. To me, and I say this in my trainings, like, you do not have to agree with me on every single thing I say. In fact, I prefer when you push back, because in the pushback is where we get to a really good place. That's where someone is really thinking deeply. Is that true?
Right.
Is there another place? Do I have all the answers? Might there be a different viewpoint or a different place?
Right.
And the more we hold that our way is the only way,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I've just been around neuroscience too long, but what I know about the brain is that we don't know much about the brain. And so our best practice today is going to change in 5 years and 10 years and 15 years and 20 years, definitely in 100 years. And so while I'm doing my best today, that's going to probably look different from me in 5 years on what my best is.
Right. Oh, Shenandoah, I don't know how we got to the end of this conversation. I wanted to keep going. Before we adjourn, can you please tell a little bit to our audience, how can they find you? What ways can you help them? What are your next big things that you're working on? Just anything that you want to talk about so that people can, get closer to you and learn from you.
I appreciate that so much. So, as we were talking about before the show, Michael, Shenandoah Chefalo, if you can kind of spell it, you can kind of find me, right? So the pleasantness of having a unique name is I don't know a single other Shenandoah Chefalo on planet Earth. So I'm super easy to Google and find, or you can head to chefaloconsulting.com. You can shoot me an email. Like all companies and agencies, you can sign up for our newsletter, our blog. We have a podcast, Mindful Management, which is going through its own new integration and moving into a new way of being. My goal is to reach 1 million people with free resources to move that needle on being more trauma-informed, human-centered. So I'm trying to come up with new ways to get people new resources. And for me, it's like something you could go do at your next family dinner, at your next staff meeting, right? Like you don't have to hire a consultant. You don't have to hire, You don't need a budget. Like, budgets are a big concern right now for everybody. You don't need any of that. It's just go have a different conversation with a friend, a family member, a colleague, somebody in a new kind of way, because that all shifts the needle. And I just imagine a million of us trying to do that. Just one curious question arriving in our full presence for one conversation. If a million of us did that, it's a big tidal wave of shifting that begins to happen. So check out free resources, download them. We have a whole free resources tab. You can find my book, Garbage Bag Suitcase, on Amazon. And we just released our first book, The Best Bunny, a children's book dealing with grief and sorrow.
Wonderful. I love what you put out into the world, Shen, very much. And I'm so honored that you came on to our Future is Kind podcast. So thank you for being with us.
Michael, I cannot tell you how grateful I am to have met you. For what your listeners might not know is that Michael was a guest on my podcast, found him via LinkedIn, and thought, I don't know where this conversation is going to go, but I'm intrigued enough, and then was able to have a conversation for me that was so enlightening, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and was filled with something deeper than kindness from you. And so I just appreciate so much what you're doing on your show and your platform and with your audience, and just feel like it's so needed in this world. So thank you for letting me be even a small part of your community.
Thank you. Well, the honor is all mine. And we'll have to do a part 2. I can tell there's more to talk about here. So
I would love it. I would love to do a part 2. I'd be curious what your listeners would want to hear.
Okay. All right. Well, once we get feedback from this one, I'll let you know. But
okay.
Thank you again, Shen.
Thanks so much.
This episode's Kindness Challenge. Once per day, ask one genuinely curious question that helps you turn the kaleidoscope on someone you might be reducing to a single story. Try, what might be underneath that? Or what do I not know yet? If tension shows up, use Shen's leadership lens. How can I reduce fear and increase choice in this moment? End the week by reflecting on one interaction that felt kinder and lighter because you stayed curious. Want to stay inspired so you can stay kind? When your energy dips, borrow Shen's 2-part approach: joy plus personal development. Do one small joy act, music, a book, a call with a friend, and pair it with one growth action. Ask, why is this bothering me, before you build a story about someone else. If you can, take a nature reset, Shen style, where the first stretch is just your brain downloading, and then you finally return to your truer self. For extra inspiration, watch The Danger of a Single Story and look for one place you've been seeing yourself or someone else too narrowly. You've been listening to our Future is Kind podcast, where building what's next is a choice. Make your next choice a good one and help build the future we want to live in.